Well. Is it if it isn't my dear old friend Josh Wilden, who for me has been totally exposed. Now, although I've done a series of videos about this before, if you go back and check out a lot of my videos that I've done over the last couple of or even a few months, you would have seen that I told you, that I predicted, and I told you that exactly what Josh Wilden was going to do in regards of the Flash movie. Now, I've already said my opinions on it in regards to the Ezra Miller stuff, and being understandable that people don't watch it with this circumstance, the complicated stuff behind his private life. So people not wanting to watch it, you can't, berate people for not wanting to watch it. People are totally within their rights. Now, as a film itself, I actually enjoyed it, but for the box office numbers, right, it basically bombed or flopped, whichever terminology that you want to use. That is a fact. And even somebody like myself who actually really enjoyed the movie, and for the acting and storyline, and even parts of it were kind of heartbreaking towards the end of it, for example, I can sit there and without a shadow of a doubt, sit there and say that this is a fact. This is a fact, and it's factual that it didn't do very well at the box office. I can't sit there and pretend to twist those words or change the narrative of it, of it being that way. Now, there probably are many factors as to why. Maybe in the future I might do a video, although I do think some of it is still to do with that it's this DC thing where obviously they have a problem with the DC movie, and as I said in previous videos, it's going to be the similar thing when Blue Beetle comes out next month, where which I've said in several videos, that people like Josh Wilden are going to slag off the movie. You'll get the YouTubers or critics that will see the movie early before the embargo and will say how good and it was an enjoyable movie. And then when the movie's actually released, they'll sit there, they will tear it apart and then overly critique it. It then won't make as much money in its first weekend, and then by the first, second, and third weekend, it's gonna drop off. That's what's gonna happen with the Blue Beetle video. So the Blue Beetle movie. So I'm just predicting that right now, and it's gonna be a similar thing with Aquaman, which I don't know if it's coming out this year, probably towards the end of the year. I'm just assuming. But yeah, once again, as I said before, I did sit there and say that Josh Wilden was gonna make multiple articles in regards of the movie. Now, the thing that's really stupid is that he's not telling us anything. No, the movie's been out probably on its maybe second or more so on its third week now. The common word that he keeps using is box office flop, box office flop. Now, we know this, because if somebody sits there making an article telling you that, or you've read it elsewhere, you already know this. So why is he sitting there making articles every single day for weeks and weeks upon end, repeatedly saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again? Which we'll come back to later in the video as to why he's really doing it. Now, he doesn't do this with Marvel movies. When Marvel movies flop or underperform, he'll mention, that it's dropped off in the first week or it's underperforming, and then he then drops that particular movie and then moves on to the next one. He did this with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where he sat there and said we gave it a higher mark. I enjoyed the movie. Didn't think it was the best piece of sliced bread, but I enjoyed the movie, and I did do a review of it on my channel, so you can check it out on my review on it and what I thought worked and what I thought didn't. But overall, I enjoyed it. Now, he enjoyed the movie, which again, it's his opinion, and like with every movie review, a person's review is it's people's opinion and what they think of a movie or a particular product, and that's fine. There's no wrong or right answer. Anyway, so obviously the box office kind of reflected on how it didn't do very well, and then obviously all movies drop off by the first, and then as the second and third week go off, the box office takings percentage drops. And this can happen even more if the movie doesn't do very well, or if a bigger movie is coming out on that week, on that particular week, regardless of whether it's in its second week. Now, what did Josh Wilden do with Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania? He stopped making articles about it the minute that it wasn't making the money that it was at the box office. He wasn't making articles upon articles upon articles about that particular movie. The only time that he mentioned Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 came out, and then obviously that movie obviously scored highly, did very well at the box office, quite rightfully so. Again, I'm gonna wait for it to appear on Disney Plus, and then I will do a review of it. But I know I'm gonna enjoy it. And then that's the only time that he basically wrote an article basically saying that in the that within like a week or two of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 being released, it's overtaken Ant-Man and Lost Quantumania, and it was been out for like months, and it literally overtakes it within a couple of weeks. That's the only time he ever brought back in that movie. Now, we've had movies like Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson, which did not do very well, right? Again, when the movie was, before it was, the movie was being promoted, with casting, trailers, TV spots, posters, etc., etc. He was quite happy to make articles about that particular movie. Quite rightfully so. But soon as it didn't do very well at the cinema, what did he do? He stopped making articles about it. Doesn't anyone find that a bit strange? And then it's a Marvel movie. Then you had the whole fiasco with, people might remember, and I'm just paraphrasing here, with Scarlett Johansson's war with Disney, because she said that according to the contract, I don't know if it was in the contract or it was told verbally, that she was going to be entitled to the profits from the box office takers of the actual movie, and then Disney obviously didn't pay her, and then she threatened to take him to court, which later then was settled out of court, and then she was happy to work with Disney, but again on other projects. Now we don't know none of us know the full details of whether or not this was true or not from Disney's perspective, or from what her perspective and what she was being told. Again, we don't know if it's verbal, so we don't know. But it must have been some kind of truth to the matter, because it was settled out of court. Now, what did Josh Whedon do? He's not fully aware of the facts. I'm not fully aware of what's going on, because I don't work for Marvel or Disney or Scarlett Johansson or her representative that are working for her, lawyers and so forth. What did he do? He started backing Disney. Now, again, doesn't that sound very strange to you? Because you don't know, and he doesn't know the facts of the actual case. But yet, don't you find it strange that he was sitting and he was ready to sock off Disney? Now, you wonder why, because it can do no wrong in his book. Now, you've had other Marvel movies that have underperformed. Somebody sent me an article on Twitter where he was praising the movie Eternals, which I thought was visually a good movie. But I just thought the movie was just a bit too long and boring. And I think a lot of people thought the same way. But visually, it was a good-looking movie, but it was just a bit too long and long-winded and, overblown. That's just my opinion. There may be people out there that absolutely love it. Again, very entitled to their opinion. This is just my opinion. But a lot of people didn't like it because they felt the same way as I did. Right? And again, someone showed me an article about it. Again, didn't do very well at the cinema, or probably underperformed. Again, shock horror. What does Josh Whedon do? He stops making articles about it. Now, as a journalist, you would have thought anything that's got a meaty bit of news to it, you'd be making articles about it. What does he do? Shock horror. It's a Marvel Disney project. Is it a coincidence that he stopped making articles about it? No. Now, he does a similar thing with the Doctor Strange sequel. Exactly the same thing. Stop talking about it. Again, as I said before, Ant-Man Quantumania, same thing. Stops talking about it. Then you had, again, this is a Marvel movie, but it's just not distributed by Disney. You have the movie of Morbius, which, if you judge it by the Rotten Tomatoes scale, which I'm not a particular fan of, which people know of, it got 16%. The movie bombed or flopped. whichever terminology you want to use. I've watched the movie, didn't think it was great. Great in places, but overall was a disappointment. Now, Morbius, if you are people are really big comic book fans, and quite clearly Josh Whedon isn't, is a big part of the Marvel universe because he's associated with Spider-Man. Now, we all know that Marvel and Sony, obviously, they are doing that deal with Spider-Man because obviously Sony really want to keep the Spider-Man franchise and not give back to, Disney or stroke Marvel. Although Disney and plus Marvel would love to have the whole character back, but obviously you're seeing obviously that their next best deal is to co-make the movie with Marvel. That way, Marvel and Disney still get to use Spider-Man, and at the same time, Sony still get to keep that character. But what you're not starting to notice now that what Sony are doing is that they're making Spider-Man spin-offs from the Spider-Man universe. So there were rumors of a Sinister Six movie, which has been in development for years, and I think was going to go ahead much earlier on, but because of the some of the Spider-Man movies weren't exactly doing very well. Obviously, that's put a back burner on that. But again, that probably will come back. You've got the Spider-Verse 2 animated movies, and the third one to come out, in the next year or two, because I think it's been delayed. So obviously they're working on animated stuff, and there's already been the Kraven Hunter movie that they're working on, which are two trailers were released: the normal trailer and the red trailer, which obviously the red trailer's got more violence and more blood in it. Again, I'm even surprised that Josh Whedon never mentioned Kraven Hunter. I've not seen him talk about the actual trailer, even mentioning it, or even the poster, or even the story, or even the cast news. I've heard nothing. All the stuff relating to that upcoming movie, I've had to read it elsewhere. As again, he's not even a proper Marvel fan. And he just chills. Again, as I've said earlier on in the video, he's been called out by people on Twitter now. And he does this childish thing where what he does now is that he blocks people when he's called out for his hypocrisy. Not even to, have a healthy debate on something as to why people disagree with him or agree with him. He does he takes the coward's way out with blocking people. And to me, that's a coward. And now more and more people are starting to see him for what he really is. So again, as I've said, I've pointed out tons of examples of Marvel movies where they've flopped or underperformed, and he has stopped making articles about it. Again, you can check these. Don't just take my word for it. Go onto comicbookmovie.com, scroll back for the timelines, and then you'll see when certain Marvel movies that have been released that haven't done very well, where he just swept it under the carpet. And when a Marvel movie has done very well, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, he can't stop making articles about it. Now, I don't even consider him a proper journalist, because one, his grammar's crap, and he talks like he's a 5-year-old. Now, that's not to say I'm perfect either, because as I've said in one of my earlier videos, I've only started to speak. I don't script my stuff, so I tend to speak from the heart, which is why some things are a little bit all over the place. I don't even consider myself having a great voice, which is why in my early videos I never used to speak. It's only because people wanted me to speak, to articulate what I thought about a particular product or a review or a particular item. And as time goes on, you do it long enough, you become more confident in speaking, especially with somebody like myself, who I'm not ashamed to say, but I've got a speech impediment. And when I was younger, it was really bad. I used to stutter a lot. So I felt uncomfortable with speaking, because I used to slur and stutter my words, as you can kind of see there. And people used to laugh at me. So I always found it uncomfortable with talking. Although when I sing, I don't stutter. But again, people on my YouTube channel have asked me to speak about particular things, and I've done that, where people have asked me for reviews, and I've started doing that. Obviously I've been doing it for quite a while, but I don't consider myself having the best grammar and the best voice or the best articulation in saying things, but I've got the bollocks to be honest about how I am. All I can hope to is that people like it, people get the gist of what I'm trying to say, and people understand what I'm saying, and people like what I have to say, because I'm just speculating my opinion on a particular thing. But Josh Wilding, I don't even consider him a proper journalist, because all he does is that he clickbaits, and that's a lot of things I've seen people in websites and even some YouTubers that are starting to do that now, where they're just clickbaiting. For me, it's an absolute turn off, and where people clickbait on particular things, and it's either nothing to do with it, or it's just to be to do what they do. And we lived in a day and age now where I like to call it outrage culture, where, especially with the advent of social media platforms, where people have access to it 24/7, as long as you've got internet access, and obviously signed up to these platforms, where people want to be outraged over anything and everything, and sometimes it's over the most trivial things. Some of the things that people should be outraged about should be things to do with where women are sexually assaulted, burglary, the elderly not being looked after and not given enough money, racism, people who are homophobic, poverty, people who are poor or struggling, and corruption. All these things are things that we should be outraged about, because these things affect people's lives. And especially when you're not in a position to have that power to do anything about it, you have to suffer the consequences of it. But you're getting people being outraged over anything and everything these days. And this is why I call it outrage culture. We also have things called cancel culture, where if somebody doesn't like somebody, or somebody makes a mistake, or has mental health issues or something, and makes genuine mistakes where you can tell that the person has issues, or makes a mistake due to youth and they'll try to better themselves, or done things in the past where they were young but they better themselves, people want that person cancelled. And that's the culture which we live in, and where people go online with their fake profile pictures and fake names, and then will constantly abuse people. And I've seen, and it happens with even in sport, where with football or soccer as it's called in America, where you have fans of a particular team, and you'll have people abusing people just because that they don't agree with the same views that they have. And as I've said, I don't believe that Josh Wilding, for me, is a real comic book fan, because real people who are comic book fans, people who are movie fans, do not behave like that. You don't set out to want movies to fail. You don't suck off corporations just because you favor one over the other, or want ones to fail, or you're given preferable treatment over one over the other. As I said before, if you want to use this analogy, it's like having two kids. You got two children, both of different abilities. One maybe is academic, one is not so academic, maybe it's more practical, and then you're giving special treatment to the one that's academic and not loving the other one just as much. Just because the other child isn't of the same ability, it doesn't mean that you don't love that child any less than the child that is academic. You love them both because they're different. You don't give one special treatment. And this is what Josh Wilding does with Marvel. And as I've said, and I've spoken to even other journalists who aren't necessarily DC, they're actually both DC and Marvel, or comic book fans in general. They have called him out and have said similar things, where they have said that he's well known for behaving and trolling like this. And again, as I've said, you don't have to take my word for it. Look on the comicbookmovie.com site, go through the timeline, go back through my videos that I have done, where I've done long videos, or the YouTube shorts, where I've made videos in regards of exactly what Josh Wilding was going to do many months ago. Come back to present day, and it's everything that I said that he was going to do is exactly what he did. Now, unless I've got a time machine and I'm able to go to the future and come back to the present, how on earth was I able to deduce this? Because he's a hypocrite, and he's predictable, and he's a shill, and he's a fanboy. And I've called him out, which is why I'm going to be titling this Josh Walding Exposed, because he has been. Now, of all the rest of the other journalists that work on that comic book movie, they do it from time to time, but they're not as bad as him. And I've even seen other articles of where he used to work before, where he was doing a very similar thing. Even on Reddit, there was even a Reddit thread where they were calling out Josh Walding for the stuff what he was doing. And again, as I said before, when he gets called out for what he does, he blocks people. That just says it all for me, where you take the coward's way out. Again, wrapping up things up, he's not even a proper journalist. He doesn't even really care. Like people like myself who've been collecting comics and watching movies and the love of movies for over 40 years now. He only really does what he does because he just cares about the views and the clickbait. The more controversial stuff and outrage stuff that he says in his articles, and he puts and if you notice that he words it in a certain way, the more that he does this, the more that he knows he's gonna get people that are gonna be curious to click on his article, which in turn is gonna get him more views, and then it's gonna make him more money. Then you factor in the comment section where you've got people that will follow exactly, will bootleg him and will follow exactly what he says and won't call him out for what he's saying there in what he's written in black and white, because that's what most people do. They're afraid to sit there to be able to tell somebody the truth in front of their face. As I've said many a time, that we live in a world now where if you tell the truth, you are penalized and downtrodden on for being truthful. And then when you tell a lie, you are rewarded for telling lies. And it seems to be now, the more that you tell lies, the more that the lie becomes the truth. And we're seeing it in every day. We see it with MPs, shock jocks like Piers Morgan and Nigel, people like ex-MPs, I don't know whether he is or not, people like Nigel Farage, who peddle their lies, and then when they get caught, they peddle even more lies to cover the lies. Same thing with Piers Morgan, or even Trump, if you want to go as far as that, or most politicians, especially in the UK, where you look at the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He says things like that he wants to being the new leader of the Tories. He wants to be the leader of the party of integrity. But you're seeing all this stuff that's coming out with his MPs. Hardly integrity, is it? So if you sit there and you kind of ignore it and you tell a lie often enough or more than enough, it becomes the new truth. So Josh Walding does not care about the actual journalism and what he's doing about the particular subject matter. He just cares about getting clicks and views so that he gets more money and it makes him more popular, which is a thing that's going on in social media. And why, if you look at Twitter now, the whole thing is going to crap now, where now people are now slowly starting to get fed up with the Twitter platform now. So as I said before, for me, I've exposed Josh Walding. Don't just take my word for it. As I said, look back on his stuff. Go back on my videos that I've said many months ago and then come back to his present stuff now, and you'll see that all what I've said is 100% correct. I know this is a bit of a long video again, and I'll keep going on about the guy, and it's simply because I can't stand the fact that you have people who ruin the love of comic books and movies for some of us who do enjoy comics and movies, and who those of us who are real comic book fans, those of us who are real movie fans. You can see this is only a tiny fraction of my movie collection, and maybe one day we'll do a little video showing you my Blu-ray collection and my DVD collection. But I've got tons of movies because I love movies. Some movies are stronger than others, some are average, but generally speaking, I enjoy them all, should I say. I don't buy movies that I know that I don't like. Even if a movie's average, even if a movie's not going to be an Oscar-winning performance, as long as I get some form of enjoyment out of it, for me, it's done its job. But for me, that's why I'm so irate with people like Josh Wilding, because people like him are spoiling the fun for people like myself who love movies and who love comics. And it just leads me to with this final matter, that my YouTube channel is very small. I don't get thousands upon thousands of views on like what Josh Wilding does, or comments like he does all agreeing with him. My YouTube channel is very small at the moment. Now it's only 428, which I'm grateful to for all our 428 people on there. My views for my videos aren't high. Sometimes I get really high ones, sometimes I don't. But I know if I sat there and I started clickbaiting and I start doing controversial or outrage articles, milking the same thing over and over and over again, and being angry and being negative, which is what some YouTubers do. Again, I'm not going to call them out. It's not my job to do that. And they're entitled to do that, but it's just not my bag. I know I would have got thousands upon thousands of views on my videos. I would have got thousands upon thousands of subs if I just simply started being negative and doing what Josh Wilding does. I would have got a lot more views. But that's not what I'm about. I'm a person. I'm a person who's honest. I am a person of integrity. I speak from the heart. As I said, this video I'm making wasn't written down. It wasn't scripted. This is how I am. This is how I conduct myself when I'm speaking about a subject matter or a product. What you see with me is what you get, is from the heart. I don't do it to clickbait. I would sooner carry on my format of the way my YouTube channel is, and my YouTube channel, even if it is the next 5, 10, 20 years, God spare my life, but I'm still around doing it. Even if my YouTube channel was still small after those many years, I'd rather be my YouTube channel be of something of honesty and of integrity, rather than build up something of clickbait, outrage and controversy and hypocrisy, because that's not what I'm about. And that's what made me start to do reviews of certain movies now, because I wanted to input my honest opinion, good or bad, about a particular movie. So yeah, Josh Wilding, you've been exposed.